Welcome to the second demo that I would have wanted to show in my session at JavaOne on Docker in combination with Vagrant and Puppet. Unfortunately, this demo failed as well. As a result, 11:15, I'm here sitting and recording the demo that my audience should have seen about 2 hours ago. In this second demo, I'm showing how we can take existing images, from this case the Docker Hub public registry, start containers based on these images, and pass in parameter settings, links, and other potential dependencies that an image might expose in its interface definition. In this case, we link the WordPress image to a MySQL image. And WordPress will, during the installation, create tables in the MySQL database. We also instruct WordPress about the root password for the administrator of the MySQL environment, and this parameter is used during the execution of operations inside the WordPress container. So let's go inside the Docker host VM. Here we are. And currently no Docker commands are running at all. I can paste in this command, and it basically instructs Docker to run a container called WordPress DB, and this container is based on the MySQL 5.7 image. I also pass in the root password for the MySQL user, and that doesn't quite completely fit into the recording. But anyway, this root password is set to the value password. Not very imaginative, is it? With Docker PS we can check whether now any containers are running, and indeed the container we just started is still running. And this basically means that inside the container the MySQL database is currently active. I can use this next command to run the MySQL client, and this MySQL client is linked into the WordPress DB container I've just started. So the previous container was called WordPress DB. This container that I've started next is linked to the WordPress DB container using a logical name MySQL that's inspected inside the container I've just started. In this container I can show databases, for example, and one of the databases that's there is called WordPress, because it was the database created when I ran the MySQL image. I can type show database, I can type use database, I can type use WordPress, now I got it right. It's just like a live demo, and I can type show tables, and there are no tables created at this point. We'll see a little bit later on that tables will be created by WordPress during its installation. I'm now outside the container. A single container is running, just the MySQL container, and my next step is to run the WordPress image as a container. There we go, it's running. I've specified that the name of the container is WordPress, and it should now be running. There it is. It's called WordPress. It's based on the WordPress image, so I've specified over here, WordPress. It has port forwarding. Port 8080 of the Docker host is mapped to port 80 inside the WordPress container, and it's linked into the WordPress DB container that's running MySQL. It's a bit hard to see due to the resolution here. So at this stage WordPress is running, and when I go to the browser and try to access From the Windows browser, at port 8080, the IP address of the Docker host machine. It will forward to port 80 inside the WordPress container. And since inside the WordPress container WordPress is running, I can start the installation of WordPress. Site title, my site, username, me, password, that's okay for now. My email, me@us.com, and install WordPress. And now WordPress has been installed. Let's see what happens if we return to the Docker host and rerun the MySQL client. There we go. And inside MySQL, use WordPress show tables. And there we see a bunch of tables that apparently were created by WordPress during the installation. Important to realize that because we linked the MySQL container, the WordPress DB container, into the WordPress container, WordPress was able to reach out to the MySQL container and create its tables and the content of the tables in that container. So to return to the original objective, we ran the MySQL container, pulling the image from the Docker Hub public registry. Then we ran the WordPress container based on the WordPress image. And when we ran this container, not only did we define the port mapping, we also passed a link from WordPress to the MySQL container and a number of parameters that specify the connection details that WordPress needed in order to access the MySQL database. This concludes the second demo. There's one more to come.